action figure fan. Once again, it's the one and only Optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, thanks to the absolutely incredible support by the folks over at EXO-6, we're going to be taking a look at their new 1/6 scale Judge Q. An absolutely iconic character in the world of Star Trek, and one that I was super excited that they decided to do. For the package, much like their other releases, you have a gorgeous image of the figure right there in the very front. Of course, you got Judge Q down here, Star Trek The Next Generation, Captain Picard right there on the side, which is very fitting, especially if you've seen the second season of Star Trek Picard. Just having Jean-Luc kind of hanging out there is awesome. Come around to the side here, you can see that the image of Q carries over onto the side, but also you have other characters from the series. This side here, you have a continuation of that image, and then you got this really nice logo right here that shows a Starfleet Museum. I really dig that. Come around to the back of the package, and you got obviously an image of the figure as well as all of his accessories and what he comes with. And then, as this is a slip sleeve style package, this one is fairly tight, so let's kind of pull this up. After all of that, you have an inner section right here with an open window that fully showcases the figure. Come around to the back of it, and you have the credits of the incredibly talented people for giving this figure to us. Huge shout out to Nanjin as well as David. Also, if you'd like to get some more detailed information, even though my review is going to pretty much cover everything, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. You'll be taken over to the EXO-6 website, where you can view an instructional video on this guy. Ignore this section right here, where the text here says EMH. That's definitely not right. The code is correct, but the text right there is incorrect. Just bear that in mind, that link is not going to be really proper for this figure. So just scan that guy. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. And here we have the omnipotent one opened up and out of his packaging. And once again, the folks over at EXO-6 have absolutely crushed it. Q is arguably one of the most iconic characters from the Next Generation. I know that he is, at least for me. So I had very high hopes and expectations for this figure. And I have to say that, at least for me, that EXO-6 met them. Now, starting off first with his accessories, he does not come with a lot, I'll tell you that right now. That is one aspect that, personally, I would like to have seen them expand on. For Judge Q, as you can see, you do get the fairly relaxed pair of hands that are on him. You also do get a left fist, a left gesturing kind of hand, a right hand that is done in a finger snapping pose, which is, again, iconic for the character, as well as a right hand with him pointing. I guess, technically, the Chains of Office is an accessory. We'll zoom in and focus on that here in a bit. And then you also do get the display base, which is slightly different than the Starfleet figures that we've gotten, in terms of that the image on here is that chain image that blocked the Enterprise when it was trying to fly through space. Now, it still comes with the display stand connectors, where you can connect this to all the other transporter-based display stands that we've gotten previously. But I like this. I do like that it stands out differently than those Starfleet ones, because it really should. You'll also get the clear display piece. It's all done up in this little plastic baggie. I left it in there because I'm probably not going to connect them in my display, so I just figured that I would keep it nice and secure. He also does come with, obviously, the name plaque. You can see Starfleet Museum Archives, the Q Continuum Q. This acts like a autograph card as well, where if you ever met John Delancey, you could have him scribble his name on there, sit that right there on that clear piece, and further enhance your display. But for his accessories, that's about it. And really, there's not much else that you could give this guy. He's an omnipotent being. He doesn't need a bunch of accessories. However, I will say that I would have been perfectly fine if they increased the price of this to include a chair. I think a lot of collectors, myself included, will love to have him sitting on that throne sort of chair in front of the other Next Generation characters, kind of passing judgment on him, because while he was dressed up like this, he was sitting the entire time. That's just a personal preference on my side. And like I said, for the price point that you're paying, you're not really missing anything. I just would have liked to pay more to get that chair. But for his accessories, that's about it. Now, coming in to take a closer look at the figure, again, absolutely spectacular work on this. The likeness is amazing. Without a doubt, that looks like John Delancey. One thing that I will note to you guys is that the headpiece is permanently attached. So it's not like you can take this head off and put it on another body and create the unjudged-like version of Q. I gotta believe at some point in time they're gonna take this likeness and put that on a Starfleet uniform body, because that's typically how we saw Q interacting with the other Star Trek characters. But that is a gorgeous, gorgeous likeness. Very impressive. We'll get into the articulation later on, but also the design of this really helped to facilitate some enhancements to the overall body that they have given us in the past. Coming down and taking a closer look, I will note that the costume on this is superb. And because all of it is an actual cloth costume, it does require some extra bit of attention to kind of getting it to look natural. The only thing that's really kind of separate are going to be the chains of office here, which these are absolutely gorgeous as well. You can see a very nice red ruby throughout the entire thing, beautiful gold. It is made out of plastic, which I think is perfectly fine. I don't think you could have gotten that much detail in a metal piece, at least not at this price point. But again, you look throughout the entire outfit of them, gorgeous wrinkles, gorgeous folds. There are wires throughout the entire thing. Around the cuffs are wires. Around the opening here are wires. You come down here to the bottom, and those have wires. So you can really get this looking very good. They do recommend kind of putting them on the display stand and starting from the top and working down to kind of get it to flow and drape naturally, which does make total sense because there's a lot going on here. But it fits on him absolutely wonderfully. Getting these arms kind of out of the way, you can open the robes and you can see you have darker robes on the inside with some gorgeous buttons going all the way down. Come down here to the bottom and you can see that he is actually wearing pants. So there's multiple layers of cloth fabric on this guy, which, like I said, is incorporated beautifully. And a lot of times when you have a lot of clothes on a figure, it kind of bulks them up. But this doesn't have that going on at all. I'm really quite impressed. It's very, very natural looking. You can see he's got his little sash here coming over. One thing that I would note is, as a big Star Trek fan, we saw Q wearing this twice. In the very first episode and the very last episode of The Next Generation. In the last episode of Next Generation, he had this little fuzzy bit on both sides. So this is more representative of how the costume looked in the Encounter at Farpoint episode at the beginning point of the season. The series, I should say. Which I like. I like that representation a lot more. Overall, like I said though, gorgeous. Absolutely spectacular. For his articulation, as I mentioned, the fact that they were able to do a hood for him as part of the costume afforded them the luxury of adding in something that they hadn't done before. A double joint at the neck. You have a neck joint right down here at the bottom, also at the top, so you can get this guy really emoting, which is fantastic. You can get him looking almost all the way down, looking way far back. All that articulation is possible because of the hooded nature of the costume. They were able to hide that joint. And, I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, being able to have John Delancey as emotive as possible in this character is perfect. You can see y'all could rotate it left and right. I would emphasize caution when you're doing it because the hooded section here is a separate piece from the rest of the body. So if you do go too far, you can kind of pull the lower section of the hood out from underneath the actual jacket right here. So just be careful as you're doing it. The rest of the body is pretty much the same. You do have that same sort of joint system here where you can pull the shoulders down to get a little bit more of a relaxed pose. You can put them all the way up. It just hinges up and down to kind of allow for a more stoic look or a more relaxed one. You can also hinge them forward and back, up and down. All that does rotate at the upper part of the bicep. You do have 2 bends at the elbow for a very nice range of motion. Come down to the wrists themselves. Those are on those wrist pegs that allow the forward and back and up and down. You do have a joint right here at the torso area. You can also rotate it around side to side. It feels like it's a ball joint. The hips move forward and back. There's not a lot of restriction because of the costume, because of that slit that goes up there. So you can move that around. You could probably get this guy sitting. So if you had an extra 1/6 scale style chair, you could probably use that for him, and that's more than likely what I'll do. You have the double bends at the knee, and then you have the ankle with the high boots with a good ball joint so that you can kind of articulate that however you want. So all the articulation that you would want. You're probably not going to really be putting him in a lot of crazy action poses because it's Q. The only pose that you're probably going to really want to do with this guy is either A, have him sitting down, or B, have him snapping his fingers. Or common characters that he interacted with. That being, of course, Jean-Luc Picard, and of course, Captain Catherine Janeway. And I think that the scale here actually works pretty good. This bit obviously sticks out considerably further, but like right there is about where his head is. John Delancey is actually a pretty tall guy. He's 6'3", whereas Patrick Stewart, I think, is like 5'9", 5'10". So like right here is basically where he is without that little head section. And I feel that scale-wise, it's pretty good. When you shrink things down to a 1/6 scale, sizes really do kind of stand out if they're disproportionate. But I think that EXO-6 nailed it here, and you can even see I'm coming down so it's a little bit more straight on. Obviously, Captain Janeway was even shorter, so again, the scaling for this works nicely. At the end of the day, if you are a Star Trek fan, Q is a character that you probably love as much as I do. And this is the first version of the character that we've ever gotten in 1/6 scale, and it is wonderfully done. The likeness is outstanding. Without a doubt, that looks like John Delancey to me. And while he doesn't really come with a lot of accessories, as I said, there's not a lot that you can give an omnipotent being like you. He doesn't really need them. The only thing that I wish he did come with, and I would have been perfectly fine paying a higher price for this set, would be a chair. I know myself, and I do think a lot of collectors would have liked the option to be able to display him sitting down, but I'm not going to knock this set for that because that's a personal desire on my part, and it's not like they charged us $250 for it and didn't give us the chair. It's appropriately priced for what we're getting, which is a little higher than some of the figures, but it makes sense because the level of detail and work that they put into this outfit is extraordinary. Layers upon layers of clothing that do not look bulky and sit on him naturally is not easy to do, but they nailed it. That's one thing that I absolutely admire about what EXO-6 has been doing with their Star Trek figures. Putting in a level of detail in the costumes and outfits that is above and beyond anything expected. This is a 1/6 scale figure and a 1/6 scale outfit. If you scaled this up to 1:1 scale, that outfit would be absolutely worthy of any cosplayer. And as I said, if you're a Star Trek fan, this is absolutely one that I would add to your collection. So there you go, my friends. There's your look at the new Star Trek The Next Generation 1/6 scale Judge Q by EXO-6. If you'd like to pick yours up, you can do so online at various places like Big Bad Toy Store or Entertainment Earth. For that, I'll put a link right down there in the video description where you can head on over there and check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the wide range and expanding universe of EXO-6 1/6 scale figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Once again, I want to send a huge shout out to the folks over at EXO-6 for helping to make this review possible. And as always, remember, in the immortal words of Captain Spock himself, live long and prosper.